Chaplain Dave, and this is my testimony. I was born 1973, May 11th, in Richardson, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. I grew up in Carrollton, Texas. We moved there when I was 1. My parents are Joe and Margie Granade, and I have a sister, Mary Chris. She's 5 years older than me. We grew up in just a middle-class suburb neighborhood and a real happy childhood, and just a real simple life. In 1981, my father died at the age of 37. I was 8 years old, and it's a pretty drastic turn in our life. But my mother, Margie, did an amazing job of raising Mary Chris and myself, and I couldn't ask for a better mother. My journey with Christ started at a young age. My parents put Mary Chris and myself on the church bus every Sunday. And we went to First Baptist Church in Carrollton, and we went every Sunday pretty much and grew up going to church. It was a little satellite church of the main church. By the time I was a teenager, they closed down that satellite location and moved us to the main church, where everybody wore suits every day and drove Mercedes and big fancy cars and big fancy church. And I kind of used that as a convenient excuse to stop going to church. And that's where my journey and my path with the Lord began to decline. I started selling cars at the age of 17, fresh out of high school. I had a lot of financial success pretty early. I really began to focus and put money as my God in my life. I still believed in Jesus Christ, and I believed in our Father and the Holy Spirit, but they began to slip on my priority levels in life. My priorities began to become partying, making money first and foremost. I was very focused at work, but I partied just as hard as I worked. I went out every night to the clubs. I ended up investing in a nightclub when I was 18, and down in Deep Ellum in Dallas, and partying and working became my life. I got married. I got burned out on the whole party scene pretty early because, I realized how fake all that was. But my journey, the Lord began to go down on page 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 for me. Money was certainly my number one priority. I got married in July 9th, 1995, to my beautiful bride, Valerie. We got married when we were 22 years old, and we quickly had 2 children. And by 1998, my career had progressed to pretty rapidly. By the time I was 22, I got my first management job, and I loved being a husband and a father. I was just so excited to have children and love doing things with them. But as I look back on my journey, money was still a number one priority in my life. My kids were a close second, and my wife was probably on page 2 or 3, and God was probably on page 5 by this point in my life. Fast forward to 1998, we moved to Augusta, Georgia. We had 2 children at that point, and that was my first general manager's job. And we spent 6 years in Georgia. Again, money came fast and furious. I worked extremely hard, 80-hour weeks. I partied even harder. I drank every day. Occasionally used drugs at parties and different events. And I was unfaithful to my wife. I had women stashed all around the city, and kind of lived almost a gangster lifestyle when we were in Georgia. To me, I was probably the worst type of sinner. The society looks at the homeless person society looks at the person addicted to drugs that's lost their family and their lives and everything. Boy, they made some poor decisions in their life. You know, they're a terrible sinner and they've just made poor decisions. But for somebody like me, walking around with $3,000 suit on and Rolex and $100,000 cars and trucks and motorcycles and every toy you could imagine, my wife could spend whatever she wanted, didn't have to ask me. Society looks at a guy like me and says, man, he's a winner. He's got it going on. And they ask me if I'm a Christian, and oh yeah, I believe in God, even though he's down on page 5, you know. So that's 6 years. Fast forward to 2004, we moved back to Texas. I had my first dealership at age 31. I was a part owner in a Nissan dealership in Wichita Falls, Texas. I started it from the ground up. Again, lots of financial success. At this point in my life, I had started to try to right some wrongs. I was no longer unfaithful to my wife. I was being faithful, even though those same temptations were there and plenty of women were throwing themselves at me and the money was coming fast and furious and all those things were still there. I was trying to do things right on my own, which those of us that are followers of Christ and know how sweet life is, we cannot do it on my own. I tried it, you know. I dug my heels in. I did manage to withstand the barrage of the women and that type of stuff, but still drank. Still used drugs. I don't think I used drugs that much then, but I still was out drinking, and money was still certainly number one in my life. Fast forward 2 years, sold that dealership, moved to the Jackson, Mississippi area. We lived in Madison, Mississippi, and suburb of Jackson, and I was partners with a gentleman by the name of Doug Wilson, who is an amazing God-fearing man and was certainly someone that the Lord put in my path to save me. I began to go to Doug's church, and it was an amazing church. It was the first time for my family. My wife, Valerie, she didn't grow up going to church on a regular basis, and my kids had never been to church. So this was the first time my children had gone to church, and it was an amazing time for my wife, Valerie. She became saved. She took Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior and was baptized when we lived there. This is from the time of 2000, basically into 2006. We'll call it 2007, 2008. We were there for 2 years in Mississippi. And things began to change for me. And so I became a CEO Christian. You go, what is it they call it? CEO Christian. You go on Christmas and Easter only. No, we did go to church a little bit more, but it was when it was convenient for us. It started out fast and strong. We were going quite a bit. I joined a men's group and things were going fantastic. 2008, the biggest financial crisis of my life, the first one. I've had certainly many ups and downs, but the first one happened 2008. For those of you that aren't old enough to remember, we had a gas crisis, kind of similar like the one we're having now, but it was much more devastating to our economy. I lost basically everything. I had a lot of money in the bank and a fancy home, cars, all blah, 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 all that stuff, and poof, gone. Lost it all. Went from everybody in the world pandering me, wanting a piece of me, to nobody wanting to even be near me. Almost becoming a leper. If you were in the car business in 2008, 2009, banks wouldn't touch you. Floor plans were dropping us. And financially, it was and it's funny how as I look back on these things, I see as I began to get closer to God, that's when the devil was attacking me and punishing me and trying to lure me back in. So from 2007 to basically all the way up to 2016. I'll fill in a few of the gaps, but so we left from Mississippi. We went to Omaha, Nebraska, started going to church even less, just kind of, like I said, if somebody asked me if I was a Christian, absolutely, I believe in God, and he's number one in my life, but really and truly he wasn't. I was still chasing money. I would go to church and I would feel good, and then I'd go back to work cussing and drinking and doing all the things that, not all the things, but certainly was headed on a right trajectory up and down, but certainly wasn't putting God first in my life like I thought I was. Fast forward all the way to 2016. We'd moved back to Texas in 2015, and I was still in the car business and kind of doing the same things. Joined a church in here, close to our house. We visited a bunch of churches, and we really liked Hillside Church. And Dave Tooker was the pastor there, and I was like, man, this guy's amazing, man. He tells it like it is, and it was a pretty awesome church. And Dave Tooker is an amazing pastor, and never experienced anything like that. But I was still kind of, I had joined the church. I'd spent the time to go through the process of becoming a member. I had was going to church a bunch, studying, but still, it wasn't until 2016 that the Lord spoke to me for the very first time in my life. And the Lord spoke to me through a sermon. I was washing the dishes, and there was a Joel Osteen sermon that was on TV. I don't even know if I had turned it on. I don't even know who turned it on, but I wasn't even paying attention to it. I was washing the dishes, and all of a sudden it was like somebody grabbed me by my shirt collar. It was the Lord. He pulled me in like a tractor beam to this sermon. The Lord spoke to me through this particular sermon, and it was life-changing for me. At this point, I had never read the Bible. I didn't even know what a devotional was. I'd heard that term a million times, but just kind of was too embarrassed to ask what it even meant. I'd been to church 1,000 times at this point in my life, 2016. But for the first time, the Lord spoke to me through this sermon. And after he was done speaking to me, when the sermon was over, I went into the bathroom. I broke down in tears, and uncontrollably, I couldn't control myself, crying. And I felt like physically these chains were breaking off of me. And it was just an amazing feeling. And after that experience, I came out of the bathroom and I went to my wife, Valerie, and I embraced her, told her what had happened, and we just kind of embraced each other and was just both crying, and it was just a beautiful experience. So that happened in 2016, and even though the Lord had spoke to me through this sermon and this had happened to me, it did change the trajectory of my life drastically. But it didn't change the day-to-day of my life in some amazing way. It did change my behavior, and I began to read devotionals every day or listen to them on the apps on my phone, the Bible app on my phone. I would either listen to one if I was in the car or take the time to read one, and I began to grow closer to God. So from 2016 to 2019, I was kind of on that path. I was going to church, I was studying, I was doing these daily devotionals, and my life was changing. So for the 3-year span from 2016 to 2019, May 21st, 2019 was the most pivotal moment in my entire life. I would always pray in the shower in the morning because my life was pretty hectic. Car business, I still worked, 60, 80 hours a week, somewhere in between there, and we'll go to church. But now, 2016, my relationship with the Lord, he had spoke to me through that sermon, and things were changing for me. I could feel the Lord changing me. I was beginning to mature in my relationship with the Lord. But in 2019, May 21st, 2019, I was in the shower. I would pray every morning, because nobody bothered me, and it would give me some time because I was in the shower anyways. I would take my shower, and at the end of my shower, I'd say a 2-minute prayer, 5-minute, whatever the prayer was, I'd just take a little bit of time to just talk to the Lord. And May 21st, the Lord spoke to me for the very first time audibly. And of course, I thought I was losing my mind and going crazy. The Lord spoke to me in 10 specific things that were either things that had happened in my life or they were instructions that he was giving me. And again, it was a very powerful, audible experience that the Lord, whenever the Lord began to speak to me, and it was so powerful. One of the first things was I had a customer of mine in business. His name was Brother Mathis. Brother Mathis was a prison minister for, I believe it was 17 years that he was a minister. And he gave me his testimony, and we had an opportunity to fellowship and him tell me about his experience. Well, this was one of the 10 things that the Lord either showed me or was telling me about. And he told me, I remember, whenever I was speaking to Brother Mathis, he was telling me his experiences in the prison. And I told him, man, I'm getting ready to join Hillside Church in Spring Branch. And I was so excited. They had this membership process that you went through. And I told him that, man, I'm really passionate about helping the homeless. I've always kind of given them money when I seen them, and I've always felt drawn to that. And whenever I went to join the church, I sat down with one of the elders, and we were going through the process. And I was so excited to tell him, hey, here's what I want to do, man. I want to be involved with the homeless, and what do you guys do for the homeless? And that elder, he said, well, we really don't have anything like that here. He goes, you should probably maybe check one of the churches downtown San Antonio. And needless to say, I was kind of taken back by that. I was a little crushed, and I felt, wow, man, here I am, kind of pouring my heart and soul out on what I think the Lord has sent me to do, and you just punch me in the stomach. And the lesson that the Lord told me was, that was your desire, not my plan for you. And it's not that he doesn't want me to help homeless or be involved in the homeless, but he didn't want that. That was my desire, and that wasn't his main mission, his main purpose for me. And I thought, wow, that's powerful. And it certainly wasn't anything against the church. And it was an amazing lesson. The second was kind of along those same lines. There was a couple, Danny and Joyce, that did the same thing. They have an amazing ministry. Their ministry is underneath a bridge to feed homeless people and to connect them with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and just incredible. And same thing, the Lord told me that same lesson, that was not his plan for me. Another deal that out of these 10 things was a gentleman that we called by the name of Big Rob. When I was in Mississippi, I was always every dealership that I ran, I was the pump-up guy. I was good at connecting and firing people up and giving speeches. And so I was doing my normal Saturday deal that I'd done for years. And it wasn't uncommon for 2 or 3 or sometimes 10 of the salesmen to come up to me at different points after the meeting to say, "Boss, that was great, man. I'm pumped up. Thank you," And so Big Rob would come up to me and say, "Man, that was a great speech. I'm going to use that in my church sermon this Sunday." Now, Big Rob had started a church, and all of a sudden, Big Rob was one of our top salesmen, but after he started this church, now all of a sudden he's driving a brand new Escalade and a brand new 7 Series and a new Harley and a big old house. And I thought, man, and of course I was disgusted by this. This is in 2007 in part of my journey, right? And I thought, man, I don't want to be any part of that deal. And I begged Rob not to use my church, my meeting notes or my pump-up speech in his church sermon. But the Lord told me, that was an example of the gift the Lord had given me to be able to motivate, to be able to connect with people. And and that was one of the 10 things that the Lord had either shown me or commanded me to do. And it's funny how we think certain things, but then as the Lord revealed to me, that was not the purpose of that. And, his example of what Big Rob was doing, even though it was a shameful thing, it was an example to me to not waste these gifts that the Lord had given me to connect and to motivate people and to get them going. I had a roofing company, and one of the things that the Lord had told me is that roofing company wasn't for me. It was for my son, Joe. Maybe not specifically for him to run it, but for his trajectory in life. He did work for me at the roofing company, and the roofing company was a failure of mine. I didn't succeed in that roofing company, but it's amazing. Joe works for a roofing company now, and for him to tell me this in 2019, it was a pretty amazing confirmation to see the things that God has commanded me in this trajectory that He sent me on. Another one of the 10 things that the Lord showed me was a white sign, and had red letters, and it said Cowboy Church. And at that point, in 2019, I didn't even know what a Cowboy Church was. I'd never been to one. I'd never even heard of one. I was like, Cowboy Church. And I wore my cowboy hat to church at Hillside, and I was probably maybe one of 3 guys wearing a cowboy hat in church there. But it was pretty wild that the Lord had told me about this Cowboy Church. And I thought, wow, it's pretty amazing, and another one of the 10 things was Pastor Dave Tooker there at Hillside. He showed me, he had brought one of Dave Tooker's sermons into this vision that I had, and when he was speaking to me, and he told me about that he wanted me to be like that, to be honest, to be open, and to tell my story. And I thought, okay. So another one of the 10 things was my daughter Haley and Sean. They got married in 2017. I'd been at the wedding all day and drinking from sun up to sundown. And at the end of the night, the security company that was there, they'd initially told me that they would take a check, and at the end of the night I was getting ready to pay him, and he says, "Oh no, I need cash." And I was in a drunken state, and I had a big old temper, and I got mad, I went to Val and said, hey, give me the keys to the car. And she says, oh, no, you've been drinking. I snatch the keys out of her hand. I take off in this brand new Mercedes, about 120 miles an hour down this curvy road. I'm flying. Lose control of this car on one of the curves. I go sliding off the road, and I take out about 500 feet of fence, and then I finally hit a tree head on. And no seatbelt, no nothing. Blows all the glass out of the car. Every airbag activates in this thing, and I'm knocked completely out. As I come to, I hear these people talking, and I hear them say, is he dead? And then I pass back out. And then I come to again the second time, and there's a police officer standing at the door. He says, hey, you okay, sir? And I wake up, and I go to get out of the car, and not a single scratch on me. Of course, glass is all over me. It's falling off of me as I get out of this car. And the officer asked me, have you been drinking? I said, oh, yeah, I've been drinking. I'm past drunk. Like, there's no question. 0.08, whatever the legal limit is, I'm probably 5 times that. I've been drinking since this morning. He says, okay, so he brings me out of the ditch, and we walk up out of the ditch up onto the road. And by this point, the highway patrol, he had pulled up, and the local police officer, I guess it must have been the highway patrol's jurisdiction, he goes to hand me over to him. He says, hey, I just got him out of the car, and he admitted to me he's been drinking. I've never had a DUI, never been in any trouble or anything in my life. So I'm thinking, man, here I am going to jail and have some serious business here, And so I go to the highway patrol, and he says, okay, so tell me what's been going on, because you've been drinking. I said, oh, yeah, I've been drinking all day. And he said, well, let's just see if you really are drunk. Thinking, man, I just admitted to police officers that have been drinking all day, 2 police officers that have been drinking all day. I said, okay. So he gives me the sobriety test, does the whole, has me walk on one foot and do my eyes and nose and spell the alphabet backwards and do a bunch of math and all this goofy stuff and get done with everything. He says, no, you're good. You're free to go. I thought, boy, I dodged a bullet there. Wow. I was going to go to jail for sure with a DUI and everything else. But the Lord told me the reason he saved me. Remember, I had no seatbelt on, no nothing, and hit a tree head on. I was probably still going 80 by the time I hit that tree. I was going at least 120. I had this Mercedes pegged out. I mean, I had my foot to the floor as fast as this car would go. And he said, the reason I saved you is because I want you to go to work for me. It wasn't for you to get away with something. It was number one, I want you to go to work for me, and I want you to become a pastor. But more importantly, I want you to tell the truth. I want you to tell your story. I want you to be honest and help people come have a relationship with me, a real, true, authentic relationship with me. I want you to become a pastor. And so that was another one of these 10 things. He says, I want you to become a pastor. And I thought I was truly, truly losing my mind at that point. One of the next things he showed me was Pastor Larry Sharman. Larry Sharman was a member of a church. I had met him in 2017. He shared with me his story, and the Lord brought me back in that situation. And Larry Sharman was just a member of a church like a lot of us for a number of years. And their pastor had quit, and they said, hey, we want you to become the pastor. And Larry said, man, not only am I not a pastor, he said, I'm afraid to speak in front of people. That's those 2 things kind of knocked me out to being the pastor. But not only did he become the pastor, but he was the pastor there for over 20 years. He had just retired when I met him, and the Lord brought that situation back to me as an example of what he was, this trajectory that he was going to send me on. So one of the last things, this is number 9, where he told me to become a pastor. And I told the Lord flat out, I said, God, I'm scared. I make $200,000 a year as a general manager in the car business. And all the pastors I know, they don't make any money. I got, $10,000, $12,000 a month worth of expenses. And, I've made a lot of money in my life in the car business, and I have spent every penny of it. I got a nice home and all that, but I don't have some big old nest egg. I've been just a wild, crazy up and down. And when I had chased money and made all that money, I spent it as fast as I made it. And I thought, Lord, I'm scared. How am I going to leave the car business and become a pastor? So the 10th and final thing the Lord showed me was it was a lightning, like a lightning bolt. Like I got struck by lightning. Without the pain, thank God. Thank you, Lord. He didn't give me the sensation part of it. He gave me the adrenaline rush part of it in a good way. But it was like a lightning bolt hit me and came over me. And he showed me a vision of himself and the disciples laying down their nets and going to follow him. And after that, I went to look up. Now, keep in mind, I'm in the shower, right? And I don't have a skylight in my shower. It's just a regular, shower in the bathroom. And it has a light, but not a skylight. I look up, and I could see the sky clear as day. And the vision of these disciples and him, and them laying their nets going down to follow him, to stop fishing for fish and go fish for men. And then I came to, and I thought, wow, if I tell anybody about this, they're going to put one of them white jackets on me that has the little arms in it and the buckles are in the back. I'm like, they're going to think I'm crazy, man. No way. And so, here's my marching orders. This is May 21st, 2019. I thought, okay, Lord. I was too scared to even tell Val. I didn't tell her. This had just happened. She's in the bathroom. I'm thinking, man, she's going to leave me. She's going to think he's completely lost his mind, and I'm done. So I didn't say anything to her. I got ready for work, and a friend of mine, John Collins in Dallas, he had gone through a pretty drastic life change. He was even more decadent and more wild and crazy than me. If you think of the 10 craziest, wildest guys, you can put them together and they won't even touch John Collins. He's a wild man. And so I called John, told him about this experience. And he said, man, that's amazing, I thought, man, it's safe to tell him, because he's kind of gone through something like this. And I talked to a couple other buddies, which was strange that I had called them because they weren't like John. My buddy Jason up in Austin, Jason Easley, he and I worked together back in 2004 through 6 and had just stayed in touch as buddies. And I had told him, I don't know why, but obviously the Lord had me reach out to him, and it was amazing the confirmation I got from him. He had told me about his aunt that he was very close with, and she was, I never got the chance to meet her, but she, just from all the things Jason had told me, she was an amazing woman of God and was really involved in a large church here in San Antonio, and he gave me confirmation about how she had told him that the Lord had spoke to her audibly. I'm thinking, okay, And then in the next few coming days, the Lord had spoke to me, not audibly this time, but in a vision, and had told me to seek out Steve Coker. Specifically gave me his name, and I thought, oh man, this guy's gonna think I'm nuts, right? And he's the pastor at Tejas Cowboy Church. And I was like, Tejas Cowboy Church? I keep my horses at Tejas Rodeo Company. I go to the rodeo all the time. I didn't even know they had a church there. I spent pretty much all my free time there. My horses were boarded there. And I went to church at Hillside, but I thought, where is this church at? I didn't even know they had it. It even existed. So I literally, I cold called Steve Coker. The Lord told me that to seek out Steve Coker and to have him baptize me. That was the only instructions he gave me. I thought, okay, this is going to be really embarrassing. So I cold called Steve Coker. I found his number. I left him a message. He didn't even answer. I thought, well, he'll just be nice and let me off the hook and not call me back, hopefully. I was scared. Well, Steve calls me back and he says, hey, I got your message. Thanks for calling, man. I can't wait to meet you. I thought, okay. And he says, hey, let's go have some coffee. We'll go meet at Starbucks. And I'm thinking, okay, well, Steve's going to be polite and it'll be just we'll have some coffee and he'll listen to my crazy story. And I can't imagine the amount of people that have, that hit these pastors up for all kinds of crazy stuff like this and beyond. So I thought, man, he's just such a nice man. He's just gonna listen to me and hear my story and then going down the road. So we go to Starbucks and meet, and what I thought was gonna be a little 10-minute meeting was a 3-hour meeting. And Steve told me that he knew that I was coming and that the church knew I was coming, that they had been praying about it. I thought, man, okay, here we go. So Val and I go to the church for the first day, and we're sitting there, and of course Steve's an incredible pastor, and it was an amazing sermon. I thought, wow, man, what a cool deal. Thank you, Lord, for sending me and letting me be a part of this amazing church. And so, I guess fast forward, just before his sermon, Steve said, hey, you want to get up and give your testimony? I thought, sure. In front of 100 people or 50 people, however many people were there that day. It was pretty full, so I'm sure it was probably over 100. And thought, wow. So I get up and give this abbreviated version of this testimony. So after Steve's sermon was over, he said, okay, you ready to preach? I thought, no. I just told him, but the Lord just kind of told me to say yes. So I said, yes, I guess I'm ready. So he scheduled my first sermon shortly after that. And I thought, wow, this is really going to be embarrassing. I've never even read the Bible. Obviously I've been, at this point, 2016, 2019, I've been doing devotionals and, reading the Bible, but I certainly hadn't read it cover to cover, and I didn't have a degree in sermon seminary, and I didn't have any kind of, I thought, here we go. So I just sat down, and I just cracked the Bible open and just prayed. Nothing. Closed the Bible. Cracked it open again, prayed, and all of a sudden the Lord just guided me, and this sermon just spilled out. It was almost like the Lord was grabbed my hand and wrote it down for me. It was overwhelming. And so I began to fill in for Steve, and was fortunate enough to be able to preach there, and it was incredible. It was incredible, this journey that the Lord has been taking me on. And then he continued to guide me and lead me, and had me go through the process of becoming a chaplain with this incredible group. It's called Cowboys for Christ. That's who I'm a chaplain with. Dave Harvey is the lead chaplain and runs everything. He's been around for over 50 years, and it's been a crazy journey. It's been a crazy journey, and it has allowed me to get out and meet and have cowboy churches at rodeos, at team ropings. We moved to Floresville at the end of 2020. So I guess back up a little bit to the beginning of 2020. The Lord had me leave the car business. So keep in mind, 2019, the Lord told me to leave the car business and become a pastor. I thought, Lord, I can't. I mean, I make too much money. These pastors, they don't make any money. And then he told me to do something even crazier, was to sell horses, be a pastor and sell horses and leave the car business. Now, granted, this happened to me May 21st, 2019. I didn't go turn in my resignation on May 21st, 2019. I was patient and let the Lord lead me and guide me. In January of 2020, I got fired from Cavender GMC Buick, and thought, wow, okay. And it's pretty easy for me to find a job. I've been in the car business for 30 years, so it wasn't like, I had guys begging me to come to work for them. And from May 21st of 2019 to January of 2020, I prayed every day, Lord, give me a sign when I should leave the car business. How does that look? How do you want me? Because I began preaching, and I thought, I don't have the guts to leave the car business. I can't, I made close to, I think, over $30,000 in January of 2020. And I thought, how does this look? I get fired, and granted, from May 21st to the end of, January 2020, I'd been praying every day, Lord. And he answered me. I thought, okay, well, getting fired is an interesting way to answer me. But number one, I would have never quit on my own because I made too much money. And it gave me an opportunity to sit back and really listen to the Lord, because my phone was ringing. Of course, they heard I'd gotten fired and I had all these offers. I had probably 15 or 20 job offers. And I thought, no, I'm going to follow the Lord. He answered me, and he said, now's the time. So February of 2020, I started selling horses. And my buddy Yancey at Tejas Rodeo, where I had my horses, he said, man, do not sell horses. Nobody makes money in the horse business. You're going to go broke. You have a successful career in the car business. I've been doing it 30 years. I started when I was 17 in May of 1990, and this is January of 2020, almost 30 years to the date, within just a few months of it. And I thought, no, I'm going to listen to the Lord. And I made $5,000 in February of 2020, my first month. And when I prayed to the Lord and I asked him, I said, God, I'm afraid to leave the car business. And on May 21st, 2019, at the very end of that, when the Lord told me to become a pastor and to follow him and go to work for him and to sell horses, I thought, how am I going to do this, Lord? And the Lord answered me, and his answer was, have I ever let you down? No. I can't honestly answer that and say no, that you have let me down. So in February of 2020, I went to sell horses. I made $5,000, and I thought, oh boy, here it goes. My bills are still $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 a month. It's outrageous. I thought, I just made $5,000. I made $5,000 since I was 17 years old. That's the least amount of money I'd ever made. In 30 years, I'd never made $5,000 in 1 month. I got a big fancy house in Bulverde still. I got $900 truck payment. I got car payments, my wife's car, my daughter's cars, my all of it. I got big expenses. It's not like those went away. By the end of 2020, I made $246,000 selling horses and being a pastor. I thought, the Lord answered me. He says, have I ever let you down? And I didn't even make that much money in 2019 in the car business. I think I barely cracked 200. Right at it, either a little below or a little above. I can't remember. I have to look at my W-2. And so it was a crazy walk of faith that I've been on. Next year, 2021, 289,000, I think, selling horses. It's not about the money. The money is just an example of the faith of where the Lord told me, have I ever let you down? And I thought, it's been a crazy journey. This move to Floresville. We moved to Floresville in December of 2020. We literally showed up out here where I'm sitting right now is where we this is the back of the property. There's no fencing. There was no nothing. The grass was about knee high. And we had 6 horses at the time. And we sold our house and we were we moved to a hotel room here in Floresville. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. What are we going to do? And it's been one amazing miracle after another. My friend Armando showed up. The Lord had me call him, and I was just blown away. You know, I was telling Armando, he said, where are y'all living? I said, I have no clue. We sold our house. We closed 4 days before Christmas in December of 2020. And we moved out of the house. The movers put all our stuff in 3 storage units here in Floresville, and we were in a hotel. And we were out here on this 11.25 acres with nothing. I had 27 panels. We had no water, no electricity, no driveway, no fencing. And we had 6 horses. And I set them up underneath this tree that I'm sitting at right now. And my friend, Mason Solis, I went over there with a 65-gallon jug. Let me see if you can see it. I think you can see it right there in the background, that white thing back there to my left. That's a 65-gallon water tank. Mason let me fill that up, and I would come fill up these troughs, these water troughs for these horses. We were still living at our house in Bulverde, and because we closed at the end of November on this property. So I moved the horses out here from where I was keeping them in New Braunfels. So from November to when we moved out here, I was driving every day from Bulverde out here to ride the horses, to fill their water buckets up, to feed them twice a day. Stayed out here all day with them, and then drove back to Bulverde. And so when we got out here, and 4 days before Christmas, we still didn't have running water here. And we show up to the hotel room, just me and Val and the dogs. And we moved the horses were already out here for about a month, a little over a month, or right at a month, I guess. And thought, wow, this is crazy. The Lord is just going to provide, and He has. We had no fencing, no nothing. My buddy Armando shows up, and he says, well, what are y'all going to live in? We don't know. He said, man, I just moved into my home, and I have a RV that we bought just as a temporary living situation for my family of 8. He has 6 children, and him and his beautiful wife, Megan. He said, man, I'll rent it to you. Just make the payment on it. The Lord provided that for us. It's unbelievable. So we're trucking in water for our RV, and we're trucking in our water for the horses. Armando, saving grace. He helps me put up the fencing here, our driveway, all of it. My amazing neighbors. They help split the expenses of all that. The Lord just put all these amazing people in our path to get all this stuff done. Unbelievable. When I called to get the permit for the water, I go out there, and the water company was the first, because you got to call that 811 when you're going to dig. So we had to dig to put in the culvert for the driveway. And the water company's the first one to show up. I thought, wow, it's, crazy. And so I go out, hey, when are y'all? They were supposed to have water out here at some point, but there was no date. And the guy from the water company said, what are you talking about, man? You have water sitting right out front. I said, hey, don't mess with me like that, man. Come on. And he said, no, there's a water line out here. I tell you, these miracles that the Lord's performed, just one right after another, they just blow you away. It's like it's impossible, right? And so I said, well, I don't know anything about water. What do I do? He says, oh, you just go get a meter. That's about $5,000 for a meter. And I thought, well, that's a lot cheaper than $25,000 for a well, or $15,000 for a well. So we go to go put the deposit down, and they said it's $200. And I thought, well, that's a weird deposit for a $5,000 meter, but give them $200. And they get us on the schedule, and they call us, and he says, I said, hey, we're ready to put your meter in. You got to come in and pay for the rest of it. Oh, okay, so it's $4,800. And he said, no, man, it's another $500. It's $700 total for the water meter. So now we got water. Just all these unbelievable miracles that the Lord has provided. At one point, I had $199 in my checking account. This was sometime last year. And I thought, Lord, and I'm keeping calm. The Lord just keeps teaching me one lesson after another. Have I ever let you down? And all of a sudden, I turn around, there's $30,000 in my checking account. Sold 4 horses, thought. And these lessons that the Lord has taught me to trust and lean into Him. And believe me, I'm far from having everything figured out. I'm trying, I'm struggling just like you are every day to learn, to listen to the Lord, to pray, and to be patient. That's probably been the hardest thing for me, because I was such an aggressive person and impatient my entire life. And I tell you, just being patient, waiting for that Holy Spirit to guide me and to show up. And I thank you for listening. If you made it this far, what are we, 53 minutes into this? If it's been at anything, I just wanted to try to document up to this point. Today is August the 9th, 2022. And the Lord has allowed me, I can't tell you how many countless times I've been in a barn with one guy or 2 or 3 guys and fellowship, and to be able to share a small portion of what I've shared today. But more importantly, to listen to them and listen to their journey and answer their questions and help them to have a path with the Lord. It's been incredible. Whether I'm preaching in front of 100 people, whether it's all of it, has just been absolutely amazing journey up to this point. We've had Cowboy Churches here at the property, and I've been able to get out and worship with fellow believers at other churches, and these Cowboy Churches that the Lord's allowed me to do at ropings and rodeos and different things. I'm excited about the next chapter that the Lord has me going on. So I just wanted to share this and try to take some time to document it so that maybe I can make a difference in one person's journey. And there's so many more details, of course. I'm 49 years old as of this point, and I just want to share with you that hang in there. You know, my struggle for 30 years up to that 2016 point where it really started to change for me, and then that journey from 2016 to 2019, that 3-year grind to where the Lord really changed the trajectory of my life in 2019. From 2019 to 2022, August 9th, where I'm sitting here right now, has been the best parts of my life. And if I can encourage you in anything, the devil is going to attack you. The devil attacked me in 2007 when Doug Wilson entered my life, and the Lord put him in my path to help me start going back to church. He attacked me. He took everything I had financially. From 2007 to 2008, at the end of 2008, I lost everything financially. The devil attacked me, said, here, since you decide to start going to church and doing good in your life, I'm going to take it all away. And that's when the devil attacks you the most. In 2019, when the Lord spoke to me audibly, and I began to go on this path, I could feel Valerie started separating from me. We almost got divorced. And I thought, wow, here I am, really got it together. I'm starting to preach. I read the Bible for the first time ever in 2021 from cover to cover. It took me the entire year. I followed a program, a detailed study program that it was amazing. And the devil was attacking me when I was really, really, really becoming tight with the Lord. And all I did was pray to the Lord that the Lord would soften Val's heart and that she would come back to me. And not only did she come back to me, we never got divorced, but and we never separated, but we were closely headed there. We weren't speaking, and there was just a huge wedge between us. And she came, not only did the Lord soften her heart and she came back to me, she came back in a way that our marriage is unbelievable, better than it has ever been. And we've been married 27 years this year. July 9th, 2022, we celebrated our 27th wedding anniversary. And I can't tell you how amazing it is how God has changed me in my temper, in the way I speak, the way I love, the way I forgive, the way I speak to people, just all of it. He's allowed me to be an amazing man that I would have never dreamed of 20 years ago, that I would have never dreamed of 3 years ago. And I'm far from perfect. I'm not up here trying to brag or say that I'm this perfect man, but I have come leaps and bounds, light years from what I was 30 years ago. And I pray that I go another light years and leaps from another 30 years if the Lord has me stay on this planet for another 30 years. It'll be amazing. So I just wanted to share that with you. And if you're still here, thank you. And God bless you. And I just encourage you to love God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit with all your heart. And love your neighbor just like you would yourself. if you'll follow those 2 commandments that the Lord wants us to do, it's going to not only save our country, but our planet, and it's going to make so many more people that will be in heaven with us. And even before that, you'll be able to enjoy all this time so much better. I wish that for you. God bless you, and we'll catch you next time. Love y'all.